We have another fantastic guest we want to bring in, Lucy Lawless. She's a New Zealand-born actress. You guys might know her as Xena, the warrior princess. But even more important, in my opinion, than that is she's an incredible activist, an incredible humanitarian, and actually traveled to Ecuador to meet with people and to view the area of this mass poisoning and dumping. So welcome, Lucy. We're so glad to have you.
Hi, women folk. Delighted to share a virtual stage with you. I met Stephen, and to meet Stephen is to kind of just love him because what he's about is so pure and so dead on, and he's suffered a lot. He's suffered a lot to do what's right, and his family have suffered a lot because they try to paint him as somebody who's hiding assets or something, but it's absolute poppycock. This guy has lost everything to do what's right by the people of Lago Agrio. So anyway, I went there, and just to set the scene, you arrive in Quito, and it's this World Heritage Site with very famous square with 16th and 17th century buildings, and everything's pretty quaint. And then you drive 4.5, 5 hours over the Andes, and it's not like the Andes where you crash your plane and have to eat the goalkeeper. It's kind of lower. It looks a bit more like New Zealand, actually. And it's right on the equator, so it's jolly hot. And you get out into the area that is called Lago Agrio, which was, I think Paul said, created in the 60s by Texaco to, set up all the infrastructure and things that they needed on site for the oil company. And I visited the communities there of La Primavera, San Carlos, Xuxufindi, and met the locals and found such warm, intelligent, quite poetic human beings, and very tough, very staunch. But when I asked Juan Carlos, in his darkest moments, what are his feelings? And he broke down because he said it's like a monster that lives beneath them all the time, that they're waiting for their children to be picked off because, 3 out of 4 kids is born with this horrible rash in this area. And there are such things as nervous system disorders and stomach cancer, uterine cancer, very young. I met a couple of young women, both of them had lymphatic cancer. And all of this comes from drinking and living around polluted water. So the settlement, if it was ever paid, is only going to go to clean up the ponds that are the 1,000 ponds, which apparently cover an area the size of Manhattan. That money will barely go to remediate that land so that future generations will not suffer these nervous system disorders, these horrible skin conditions, spontaneous abortions, all manner of cancers. They're not even asking for damages for the people who have suffered horribly. And they've not only lost their lives and their health, but they've lost their way of life, their fishing, they used to be fantastic fish farmers, right? They've been doing it for thousands of years. They know how to do these things. And they could grow their own produce. So before Chevron bought the promise of jobs, they kind of didn't need jobs because the land provided. They were working for their own existence. Do you know what I mean? In what they described as a paradise. So what the jobs and the prosperity has not transformed into any kind of wealth that you can see. You just see hideous pipes for hundreds of miles along the roads, and you see sick people, and you see whorehouses, which have been shut down by COVID, but no doubt will be back. I mean, this is the kind of prosperity and jobs it brings. Terrific opportunity for women, and in fact, the men, in my experience, what I saw is that the jobs are, because labor is so cheap there, they have very low-grade equipment. So they'll have 3 men to do a job that 1 man in America might do because it's clunky, outdated technology that they're using. And it's just they're really low-grade jobs, you know. It hasn't filtered into any kind of prosperity for the people. In fact, the opposite. It's impoverished them beyond all measure. It's incalculable, their loss.
Isn't actually going toward paying for the damages. It's going to restoration for the future, because so often people see these big numbers and think that this is an overreach. We had, the whole 90s, people were consumed with the idea of tort reform, but the reality is these judgments come few and far between, and usually the judgments are very inferior. I'm curious what, from your perspective, it's like to go and visit a place like that, to see the consequences of what Chevron has done, and then to return to your own community, to the entertainment community, and try to tell people about what's going on, because we've heard so much about the consequences of journalists who've tried to talk about these issues. I'm curious whether you've received any similar kind of pushback from the entertainment community, or whether or not this case has fallen on some open ears, hearts, and minds.
I have not been in the entertainment community. I mean, I live in my head in quite an activist world, and besides, the entertainment community tends to skew towards people who are very open and feel a lot of connectivity with human beings around the world. So I doubt that I will experience negative discrimination from that, though being considered a big mouth on the side of environmental politics might, I don't know. You know what? I don't even give a shit. Who cares? Just do the right thing. The time is so short for the planet that all this fear of trying to protect ourselves and protect our names and protect our careers or whatever is appalling to me. And there's so many very much more influential people than me out there. I wish there was. I wish sports people would get on board. But anyway, we've got to free Donziger, because as you all said, this is like the plug that's holding in the eruption of the volcano. And if you get Donziger out, then you're going to release possibly the judgment for the people of Lago Agrio. Then that's going to bring down the house of cards of Chevron, which is why they're fighting so hard and why it justifies them destroying an innocent man, because they know that they have many billions of dollars of judgments extant already in the world, let alone things which have not yet been dealt with. So, it starts with Donziger. We've got to get him out, seek justice, and save American justice at the same time, because this is a horrible indictment of the loss of the executive. They're usurping the power of the executive, right? If a corporation can now go around the rules and go around all norms, flout all norms in order to push their own agenda and punish detractors or punish lawyers who have successfully prosecuted them, then every other extractive industry is licking their chops at the prospects of just open slather on the planet and its resources.
I think that is all.
Well, that's why they have been so vicious towards Stephen. More than 2 years of house arrest with that ankle bracelet on, the conditions of the prison where he is, with people serving time for some of the harshest crimes. He will have a lot to say about that when he gets out. You know, the United Nations High Commissioner on Human Rights has condemned this case. They have called him a political prisoner. They have spoken of his human rights abuse. They've said that he should be freed and also compensated. And I think that's very, very important, because the United States, of course, likes to think that we make a stand for human rights. And we want to make sure that President Biden hears from us in any way possible. Lucy, you're with a bunch of big mouth women tonight, so I hope you feel very much at home. And I would like to think that the women of the United States would have some things to say to our president, that if he wants to make a stand for human rights in the world, he should start right here at home, and it could begin by commuting the sentence of Stephen Donziger. So I just have great admiration for you, that you went there and that you speak as you do and tell us a very human story, which can only be told by someone who has seen it firsthand. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.